from one another, so we're still being safe. You are using our precautions and CDC required guidelines. So that's how we're going to be having these meetings going forward in just the fashion that you see us now. So until there's such time where we're safe and it's proven that we're safe and there's a vaccine for COVID, I guess we can never really be 100% certain that we're all out of the woods with this yet. So we're not at this point, so that's why we're being safe. So before we get started, as always, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And Councilman Shano, would you lead us tonight, please? Everybody, please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take a moment of silence to remember all of our military personnel, our first responders, all the essential workers, and all those who are suffering from COVID. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Okay, once again, welcome everyone that's here, and welcome all those of you at home that are watching this meeting this evening. Today's date is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020, and tonight's meeting is the Town Board work session. But before we move on to the work session agenda items, we do have a public hearing that has been scheduled, and it was actually scheduled as a Zoom public hearing. And since we're here, we still have the capability of taking those questions from any residents that would like to speak at the public hearing. We'll be able to do that if you're logged on with the Zoom meeting information. So even though we're live tonight, we'll still take your questions if there are any. So for the record, all board members are present with us this evening, as is our town clerk, Ann Spofford. Ann, thanks for being here. Greg Fulchetti, our town council, is here with us, as always. Mary Ann Maxwell, the town comptroller. Jim Gilchrist, the recreation director, and Rich Franzetti, the town engineer, are with us tonight also. So before we get started with the public hearing, I'm going to ask our town clerk, Ann Spofford, to please read the notice of the public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, will conduct a public hearing virtually through the Zoom platform on the 10th day of June, 2020 at 7:00 p.m. prevailing time, for the purpose of conducting a public hearing upon a certain map, plan, and report, including an amended estimate of cost prepared in relation to the proposed increase and improvement of the facilities of Carmel Sewer District Number 1 in the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, consisting of the purchase and installation of approximately 450 linear feet of 8-inch sewer line, including 3 manholes, 2 sewer laterals, and restoration of New York State Department of Transportation right-of-way, including original furnishing, equipment, machinery, apparatus, appurtenances, and incidental improvements and expenses. The new maximum estimated cost of the aforesaid increase and improvement of the facilities of Carmel Sewer District Number 1 in the town is $461,536, consisting of an increase of $291,536 for such improvements. Public participation will be afforded through Zoom. The particulars will be provided on the Town of Carmel's website, ci.carmel.my.us, and bulletin board in advance of the meeting, and email comments may be directed to the Town Board at townboard@ci.carmel.my.us. The capital project described above has been determined to be a Type 2 action pursuant to the regulations promulgated under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, which such regulations provide will not result in any significant environmental adverse impacts. The map, plan, and report are available in the office of the town clerk, where they may be inspected during regular business hours. At said public hearing, Town Board will hear all persons interested in the subject matter thereof. Dated Mahopac, New York, May 21st, 2020, by order of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, Ann Spofford, Town Clerk.
Okay, Ann, thank you for the reading of the notice of the public hearing. At this time, I need a board member to open the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, for the record, I just checked my emails, and there were no email questions that were sent in today for this public hearing. And there were no email questions at all that were sent in for any of the items on the agenda tonight. So the public did have the opportunity to email questions ahead of time, and there were none received as of right now. Dominic?
Yes.
Dom, did you receive any questions from the public with regards to the public hearing?
No, there are none.
There are none. Okay. All right, so there were none that were logged on with the Zoom platform, and there were none that were emailed to me prior to the meeting. Is there anybody in the meeting room that would like to comment for this public hearing this evening? If there are, come on up at this time. Okay. There being none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
All right, motion made by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilman Borelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed at this time. Thank you. And so we're going to move on to a resolution authorizing the issuance of an additional $291,536 in bonds.
Public interest order first.
Which one, Greg?
Public interest order comes first.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
There's a short public interest order.
Got it. I apologize. Okay. There's resolution number 1 is the public interest order in the matter of the increase and improvement of the facilities consolidated sewer district 1 in the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York. These are for additional costs. And Bob, Councilman Shannell?
Sure.
Can you read this, please?
Whereas by orders heretofore adopted, the town board of the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, authorizes an increase and improvement of the facilities of Consolidated Sewer District Number 1, consisting of the purchase and installation of approximately 450 linear feet of 8-inch sewer line, including 3 manholes, 2 service laterals, and restoration of New York State Department of Transportation right-of-way, including original furnishings, equipment, machinery, apparatus,
That's a tough one. Appurtenances.
appurtenances, and incidental improvements and expenses in connection there within, at a maximum estimated cost of $170,000. And whereas by order dated May 13, 2020, said town board called a public hearing on the questions of the increase in the maximum estimated cost of said capital project from $170,000 to $461,536, an increase of $291,536. And whereas notice of said public hearing was duly published and posted in the manner and within the time provided by law, and such public hearing was duly held at the time and place specified in said notice, at which all persons interested in the subject matter therefore were duly heard. And whereas said town board has duly considered the evidence given at said public hearing, now therefore be it ordered by the town board of the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, as follows. Section 1, upon the evidence given at the aforesaid public hearing, it is hereby found and determined that it is necessary and in the public interest to increase and improve the facilities of Consolidated Sewer District Number 1 in the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, in the manner described in the preambles hereof, at a new maximum estimated cost of $461,536. And said increase and improvement is hereby authorized and approved. Section 2, this order shall take effect immediately. I offer this resolution as read.
Okay, offered by Councilman Shannell, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, now we can go on to number 2, and number 2 is a resolution authorizing the issuance of an additional $291,536 in bonds of the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, to pay part of the cost of the increase and improvement of the facilities of Consolidated Sewer District Number 1 in and for said town.
Yeah,
Councilwoman McDonough, would you?
Yeah, I'm going to ask council to shorten it for me, and then I'll,
All right, if the board likes, I'll summarize the resolution, and you can move to adopt it as I've stated it. All right? This is a resolution authorizing an additional $291,536 in borrowing above the $170,000 already authorized for the purposes of the increase of the improvements and of the facilities of Carmel Sewer District Number 1. It's a Type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. It has a useful life of 40 years. You can move to adopt it as stated by council and as pre-filed with the town clerk. You can adopt that.
Yes, copy that. I make that motion.
So you move to adopt it?
Yes,
Jeff? Okay.
yes.
All
And then
right,
it's
so Councilwoman
pre-filed,
McDonough
yes.
moves to adopt and make the motion. You second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Shannell. Roll call vote?
Councilman Shannell.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi. Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. So Greg, we have to do 3 too, right?
Correct.
Okay, 3 is a resolution order calling for public hearing in the matter of the increase and improvement of facilities of Carmel Water Districts Number 2, 9, and 14 in the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, for additional cost, and that's for July 1st, 2020. Councilman Lombardi, would you read 3, please?
Sure. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, has heretofore caused to be prepared a map, plan, and report, including an estimate of cost pursuant to Section 202B of Town Law, related to the increase and improvements of facilities of Carmel Water Districts Number 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14 in the Town of Carmel, Putnam, New York, being in each said district. The construction of improvements to the district water tanks or shared water tanks and related equipment and site improvement, including original furnishing, equipment, machinery, appurtenances, apparatus, and incidental improvements and expenses in connection thereto at a maximum cost of $25,315 to Carmel Water District Number 1, $1,562,615 to Carmel Water District Number 2, $282,538 to Carmel Water District Number 3, $360,296 to Carmel Water District Number 8, $17,684 to Carmel Water District Number 9, $53,658 to Carmel Water District Number 10, $35,221 to Carmel District Number 13, and $391,063 to Carmel Water District Number 14. And whereas such all conditions precedent to the financing of the capital projects hereto described, including compliance with the seeker requirements, have been performed, it has been determined that said capital projects are each a Type 2 action as to which the seeker regulations provide that there is no significant adverse impact to 6 NYCRR Part 617.5 subsection C2. And whereas it is now determined that the maximum estimated cost to Carmel Water District Number 2 is $2,762,615, an increase in $1.2 million over that previously estimated. Whereas it has now been determined that the maximum estimated cost to Carmel Water District Number 9 is $40,184, an increase of $22,500 over the previously estimated. And whereas it has now been determined that the maximum estimated cost to Carmel Water District Number 14 is $431,063, an increase of $40,000 over the previous estimate. Whereas it is now desired to call a respective public hearing on the question of the increase and improvement of the facilities of Carmel Water Districts Number 2, 9, and 14 in the manner described above, and to hear all persons interested in the subject thereof concerning the same, in accordance with provisions of Section 202B of the Town Law. Now therefore it is ordered by the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam, New York, as followed. Number 1, a public hearing will be held at Town Hall, Mahopac, New York, in said town on July 1st, 2020, at 7 p.m. prevailing time, on the question of the increase and improvements of the facilities of Carmel Water Districts Number 2, 9, 14 in the Town of Carmel, Putnam, New York, in the matter described in the preamble thereof, and to hear all persons interested in the subject thereof concerning the same, and to take such action thereon as required and authorized by law. Number 2, the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to cause a copy of the notice of public hearing provided to be published once in the official newspaper, and also to be caused a copy thereof to be posted on the signboard of the town, such publication and posting to be made not less than 10, not more than 20 days before the date of designated for hearing. Section 3, the notice of public hearing shall be in substantially the form attached hereto as Exhibit A and made part hereof. Number 4, this order shall take effect immediately. I offer the resolution as read.
Second?
Okay. Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote?
Councilman Shannell.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. I just want to take a couple of minutes just to speak a little bit about these water storage tanks. So it's important to note that in the hamlet of Carmel, there was discussion probably over 2 years, maybe even longer than that, with respect to the water storage tanks. One tank in question that we did have lengthy discussions over, and the residents actually came to the town board meetings and talked about it as well, was the water storage tank on Everett Road, the condition of it, whether we were going to rehab it or purchase a new tank for that location. So after some lengthy discussions and going back and forth a little bit and talking about the future and, what size tank should replace the current tank that's on Everett Road, it's a 300,000 gallon tank. So we spoke about, can we increase that to 500,000 gallons and have enough water storage for future use in the hamlet of Carmel? 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, what's the hamlet of Carmel's demands? What are the demands going to be? Do we need the additional water capacity for the water storage tanks? So it was determined after the company that we retained to, did they do the design, Rich?
No, they're in the process of doing the design.
And so the company that looked into the tanks and gave us the report on them, what was the name of that company?
Weston and Sampson.
Weston and Sampson. So after the town board discussions, we directed the town engineer to have Weston and Sampson look into the capacity of the Everett Road storage tank. And it was their determination that a 500,000 gallon tank would probably be the correct size tank to replace the current 300,000 gallon tank with. So the Everett Road tank will have a 500,000 gallon tank, an increase of 200,000 gallons of water. And that, as I said, would be for future use in the hamlet of Carmel for demand and capacity. And the additional cost for that is minimal. It's $140,000 for 200,000 gallon increase in the capacity of the tank. So it made sense that, for $140,000, we're getting a 500,000 gallon tank. $140,000 additional dollars, we're getting the larger tank. So I'm pleased with the report and that it is going to be increased to that amount in the capacity. So it's going to be built alongside of the existing tank that's in poor condition, that we've had a lot of work done to it to maintain it. So I think the residents of the hamlet of Carmel, and particularly Everett Road area, are going to be pleased that they're getting a brand-new tank, and it's going to be a 500,000 gallon tank as opposed to the current 300,000 gallon tank for an additional $140,000, which makes a lot of sense to me, and it's very prudent to do that. So I just wanted to add that. And the Red Mills Water District 14 is also getting a new tank. There's currently 2 tanks that service Water District 14, 2 older tanks. Those older tanks are going to be replaced with 1 large tank at that location, and the 2 older tanks that are there now will be decommissioned at some point. But there was a slight increase in Water 14 for the cost of the new tank, which was the total cost with $391,000 additional monies. Does anybody else want to add anything else to that?
And I think as far as the cost, the original cost for Carmel Water District 2, we're still below what I guess we originally said that the price was going to come in as. Rich, is that correct?
Sorry, I missed the question.
The cost, our cost so far for Carmel Water District 2, we're below what the original cost we estimated at, correct?
So when you're adding everything up, to answer Councilman Chanel's question, I think last year in April when we all met, it was about 45 million. When you start looking at everything that we've added together with the tanks, and then you're looking at what we're going to discuss later on tonight, what's going on with the distribution system, it's probably at about 35 million overall, maybe 37. So
So it's less than, you're right.
And
It's
we're
worse
getting,
than what
and we're
we had
getting a new
estimated
tank. We
last year.
originally didn't plan on that either.
Right, originally, it wasn't going to be a brand-new tank. There was some debate,
Thank you.
there was some debate about that, whether it should be replaced or refurbished. So at the end of the day, we decided to replace it. And it makes sense.
Right.
And we're getting a
absolutely,
larger tank also,
for sure.
so. Okay, thanks, Bob. Anyone else have anything to add? Frank, Mike? No?
These were the
Susan?
numbers.
Nope,
These
thank
were the
you.
numbers that we spoke about 2 years ago.
Right,
You're going to fix it, you're going to fix it all. You're going to do it right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Makes sense. Okay. All right. So that completes that. Yeah, so we're finished with the public hearing and the resolutions associated with the public hearing for the borrowing for Sewer District 1, the 450 linear feet, and the Resolution 3 was for the water storage tanks and the facilities in various water districts in the town of Carmel. So at this time, I need a motion to close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
So moved.
So moved by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good night, Ann.
Bye, Ann.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Ann. Have a good night. Okay, I need a motion to open the work session.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Shannell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the work session is now open, and we have 11 items on tonight's work session. So item number 1 for tonight's work session involves my office. It's Supervisor Schmidt making permanent appointment of senior office clerk in the supervisor's office of Joanna Torelli. Joanna Torelli is my senior office assistant that works with Ann in my office, and she's completed 1 year probationary period, and it's my recommendation, without reservation, to make her permanent. So, are we good with that, board?
Yeah, I agree.
You know Joanna
Yeah,
does a great job.
Joanna's been fabulous.
Yeah, the past 2.5 months,
Yep.
she's been
Yeah.
really working very hard in the office.
Very pleasant.
You know, getting a lot done, and she's pleasant to talk to, and
Yep.
she's very personable, and she's the perfect person for that desk. She supplements and helps Ann out tremendously. So if Ann were here, she would concur that
Yeah.
she should be made permanent, so thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, number 2, Mary Ann Maxwell. Hey, Mary Ann. Mary Ann's our excellent town controller, and this is to consider a request to award electric supply bids for facilities and streetlights for 24-month period commencing November 1st, 2020, and ending October 31st, 2022, through joint purchasing bid with Putnam County and other surrounding towns. Mary Ann?
Thank you. Yes, the town of Carmel has participated with the joint purchasing bid with Putnam County and other surrounding towns, Town of Southeast, the Village of Brewster, and Mahopac Central School District for the electric supply for our townwide facilities and lighting districts. So the bids actually came in for the facilities at 0.0588 per kilowatt, which the current contract price is 0.06497. So it's a lower price, and the bid is for a 24-month period. For our streetlights, that was for the facilities. For our streetlights, the bid also, I meant to mention, it's with Energy Cooperative, which is the company that we currently use. The streetlights also came in with Energy Cooperative at 0.03825 per kilowatt, and the current contract price is 0.04748. So again, it's a lower price for the streetlights as well. So the county does recommend that that the entire joint purchasing go ahead and award the bid to Energy Cooperative for the 24-month period.
Okay, all right. Does the town board have any questions or comments for Mary Ann regarding this item?
Nope.
This is something we do every couple of years, Mary Ann?
Yeah, I think we've been doing this, I'd say for at least 10 years.
10 years now,
Yeah.
yeah. I can recall.
With the county and
Yeah,
the other surrounding towns.
yeah, and it is a big savings
It
for
is,
the
yeah.
joint
Yep.
purchasing bid. You know, it's a consortium of municipalities.
And it's with the current vendor that we're using now, so it's
Okay.
working out
Mary
well.
Ann, we get money back based upon the solar panels that we have on the roof, right? From them?
We don't
Is it
necessarily
from
get
them?
money back, but
We get a credit.
it's
We get
adjusted
credit,
it's
yeah.
adjusted in the bill.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct, yep. And we just recently, I think it was last year, Rich, the LED lights were replaced, the street, what do you call it, the street lights?
Streetlights.
Were replaced with LED lights in most of the districts, lighting districts. The lighting districts, yeah. So that's also helped our cost,
Very good.
Okay, all right.
so. And then we were also looking in the 2020 budget, I don't know if you recall, in replacing LED lights in Town Hall. I think we talked about that when we
Yeah,
were doing the
yeah.
budget for 2020.
We did.
I think Jonathan Schneider was, looking
Yeah.
into that, so I think
believe
it's kind of been
Rob-
put on
Rob is
hold for
working on
now,
that.
but I think it's something we were looking at.
Yeah, we're moving forward with that, Marion.
Yeah.
Rob-
Oh, okay.
Robin Engineering is
Oh, yes,
actually
okay. All right,
taking care of it.
perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
And I think
Good.
they were going to make one of the offices, they were going to put the lighting in one of the offices just to let everybody go in to
And
see
see.
if they can, because sometimes people's eyes don't
Yeah,
tolerate them.
right.
So before we do the entire building,
Oh, good,
almost
okay.
do a mock for it and let everybody make sure, because it is different lighting.
Right.
Because
It
it's
is,
it's
yeah.
I
expensive
think that's the
also.
plan, to do one off.
Yes, to
Okay.
do one office, let everybody go in there, do their comments.
Okay.
And then move forward.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct?
Yep, you're correct.
Good.
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
All right, you all set?
yep,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, Mary
Thanks,
Ann.
Mary Ann. Let's go back. I skipped over the review of town board minutes of May 27th and June 3rd, 2020. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes?
No.
No, I didn't think so. All right. All right, so next is the Lake Cassie District Advisory Board. This is consider request to authorize distribution of quarterly newsletter. These guys do such a nice job on their newsletters.
Do, yeah.
Dominic, if you can zoom in on this, zoom. This, I don't know which camera they're using, but anyway, so this is their newsletter. It's the Lake Cassie Park District. They do an amazing job in putting it together. And I just want to thank, I'm going to mention the advisory board members, John Aquina, Teresa DePace, Stacy Kelly, Kim Kugler, Billy Siclari, Scott Sturbins, and the property manager is Terry Kelly. They really do a fantastic job. I'm not going to go through the whole newsletter, but there's a lot. They talk about the lake. There's a condition update, a clubhouse rentals. Clubhouse is currently closed for rentals until further notice. Events and activities. So there is a lot going on. So if you reside in the Lake Cassie Park District, you're going to be getting a newsletter. I believe there's 440 homes that are part of the Lake Cassie Park District. And this is very informative to all the residents in the Park District. So expect this in the mail. The town board has to approve it being mailed out. Is everybody good with it?
Yep.
Good? Okay. All right, next, number 4 and 5 are Highway Superintendent Mike Simone. He's not here this evening, so I'll take care of his agenda items. Agenda item number 4 is to consider request to declare equipment and machinery old and obsolete and authorize the disposal of it. There's a memo here from Mike. I am requesting the authorization for the following equipment. There's a 1989 loader, a 2007 Ford Explorer, some plow blades, a stainless steel sander, a couple more old 9-foot snow blades, snow plows, American snow plow, O'Brien Sewer King machine, and steel snow spreader grills. So Highway Superintendent is asking that the board declare this equipment old and obsolete so he can dispose of it. The car I know is, it's Mike Carnaz's old car, I believe. It's a 2007 Ford Explorer. Basically, the frame rotted from underneath the body, and it will no longer pass inspection. So we have to dispose of that car. So that's the only vehicle on there. Okay, we all good with that? Yep. With the Highway Superintendent, all right. So number 5, for Highway Superintendent Simone, consider request to authorize purchase of bulk diesel from New York State Office of General Services contract PC 684456 and revision to contract number 23094, and that's September 19th of 2018. So this is something that the Highway Superintendent does annually, is purchase bulk diesel from on the OGS contract. So I don't see any backup for number 5, or do I? Yep, here it is here, okay. I am requesting authorization to purchase bulk diesel fuel from Global Montello Group Corp. under contract PC 684456 per the New York State OGS Group 5602, award number 23092, and the period, as I stated, 8/31/18 to 12/17/20. And he's noting that this is a 2/11/20 revision to contract 23094, And he indicates see Town Board Resolution 919 of 18. Greg, so this is fine, we'll act on this at the next voting meeting?
Which I think is the 20.
The next voting meeting is the 24th.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the work session items that you're acting on, I'll prepare resolutions for the
Okay.
24th. And that's a state bid.
Yeah.
The petroleum, so.
Okay. Any board members have any questions on this item?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you. All right, number 6, 7, and 8 are Jim Gilchrist. Jim is the Town of Carmel Director of Recreation and Parks. 6 is to consider a request to authorize additional costs for engineering services for Airport Park Phase 2 for $5,200. Jim?
Sure.
Welcome.
Okay. Yeah, Phase 2 is complete. It was completed about 2 to 3 weeks ago. That would be the final seating, and all the surrounding areas are all stabilized. Grass is growing out at the airport park. We had Insight Engineering was our construction managers and the oversight of this Phase 2. And what happened during the, we had a couple items that drew on their budgeted time. They budgeted 12 weeks for this project. We had a change order for perimeter fencing that was done throughout the project. They spent numerous hours on the temporary water supply. They were monitoring Lake McGregor during the watering, monitoring the lake levels and all that. They also spent some time putting together a master plan for the buildings, where that's going to go, septic, and any other improvements that we were putting in the park. We worked with the Recreation Committee, laid that out, and we also worked with MSA to get that all taken care of. And, Susie called me on this and asked me a couple different questions, so I followed up with Jeff to get some clarification on, I knew there was an extension that we were working under, but this project, like I said before, they based their original number on 12 weeks of active construction. U.S. Pitch Care actively worked for 16 weeks in the fall of 2019 and 6 weeks in 2020, which was a total of 22 weeks. So they were very efficient on trying to spread their man hours out. We're talking about 40 hours that they're over budget on. So they were looking to have our contract increased by 50. I think it was $5,200.
$5,200.
And this is the first time that it's happened working with Insight Engineering. They have always come in under the budgeted number. And this is such a large project. There was a lot of loose ends out there that had to be dealt with throughout this project. We're currently working in Phase 3. That should come in definitely on budget. Phase 1 was on budget. This was our biggest phase out of the whole project.
Jim, where's this extra money coming from?
That'll come out of our budget that we have for the airport park. We have funds to cover this. And I was talking to Dave Farrow earlier, and we're going to try to tighten up on the Phase 3, see if we can save some money on the oversight on that, and maybe offset that a little bit. But any of these soft costs would dwindle down what we want to put in as hard costs in the park. So.
All right. And Jim, at some point, were you made aware by Insight Engineering that they were over their hours?
No, actually, our controller's office picked up on it. See, what happens, I get the bills each month, and we have weekly inspections, any kind of engineering work that's done. And I was dealing with Phase 1, Phase 2, and they were right on it. They had their list together and said, we're over by $3,000 on that one phase. So we went back and forth, and then I dealt with Jeff on what the total number would be.
So the Comptroller's Office advised you that it appears that they're running over in hours?
They caught it before the final number, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think what Insight should do in the future, if they see that they're going over what the amount of hours were that were per the contract with them, they should probably make you aware of that as soon as they, hit that threshold of hours. So this way,
Yeah, to make
There's
sure,
record of
almost
it.
to get an approval.
Yeah, to get an.
Oh, absolutely,
To
yep.
get an approval, so they should be aware of that, just to give you the heads up and say, hey, do you want us to move forward with, if we're gonna move forward with these items that were described in their memo, you know, if there's going to be extra funding that's going to be needed to cover that.
Yeah, before we're doing it, we
Yeah,
should,
we
we
should
should.
know beforehand, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this could have been a huge amount of money, you know, thank God. I mean, 5,000 is still a lot of money, but if it was a lot,
Well, I
You
mean,
know.
we work back and forth monthly with, we monitor it through the town. The controller's office is right on this all the way. I mean, down to the mileage.
yeah.
We get questions on the mileage logs, because they get reimbursed for mileage, copying. There's a lot that goes into this. So we're trying to figure out, where do we charge the mileage? You go to this line, that line, so we were down to the wire. We were dealing with two phases, Phase 1 and Phase 2. So the question came, I said, what phase is this going to? And that's when we,
thought it was like misallocated to different systems. You have to track all three phases, and
Yeah.
thought it was, misallocated.
Okay, yeah.
That's
And then-
something- I think I know in the controller's office who probably identified that as
yeah,
being an overage somewhere.
And then Jimmy, Pitch Care went over to the 22 weeks because of the other things, right? Because of the change in the fencing and everything like that?
no, their construction timeline was different than was anticipated by Insight Engineering. They didn't work as efficiently as Insight thought. We had weather issues that we were dealing with. There were holds on different, you know, hurry up and wait, the whole thing with the water and everything else, where we're going to get the water from. There was a lot of stagnant time, but they have to continue to go out and do weekly inspections when you're dealing with the DEP. So Insight had their people going out every week, seeing if there's any silt fence out of place, any erosion, and putting together weekly reports. It was shut down for the winter when we finished in the fall, and it started up in the spring again.
But that should have been anticipated, correct? That it was going to be shut down for the winter?
That was anticipated, yep.
Yeah,
Well, we thought the project was going to be completed in the fall.
by the fall.
You know, that the 12 weeks would have been completed by the end of the growing season in the fall, but it was carried over until the spring. They were not able to complete all the tasks.
It's actually almost double the amount
Yeah.
of weeks anticipated. That's a little bit of a problem,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. We just have to stay on top of it, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Recreation Director on this item? Bob, you have
No,
anything?
no question.
Mike, Frank?
No.
Good? Okay. All right, Jim, you want to go on to number 7 then? This is consider request to authorize purchase of soccer and lacrosse equipment for Airport Park.
Sure. We consulted with the users for the airport park. That would be the lacrosse group and the soccer group. They came up with their equipment list for the fall. We're opening the park up in the fall. So if you look at the second page, that's the information that we sent out to the vendors. You'll see that's exactly what the products that we'll be getting. It's a little bit easier to read, but that'll be soccer goals for all of the different fields out there. We're going to break them up into multiple fields. It'll be the spectator bleachers or benches. They're 3-row benches that we'll have throughout there, and also benches for the players to sit on for the whole park there. And then so we went out to 3 different vendors for soccer equipment, and the soccer source was the lowest, $26,374. And you can see Youth Soccer Store and Pevco Soccer were behind them by about around $3,000.
Yeah, so they gave a nice discount.
Yes, yep, they gave us a very good discount. And then for the lacrosse equipment, we got an excellent discount from BSN Sports. You can see where they came in at $2,749, and the others were $4,000 and $5,000. That price includes shipping, so that's an excellent price for those goals.
Jimmy, none of these companies are local, huh? Can't get any Putnam County or
Well,
New York?
yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can buy it local, but we're buying right from the manufacturer. So we're saving a significant amount of money. On this kind of an order, it's a full truckload. So if you wanted to go to a local soccer
no.
supply store,
Right.
you could, but it makes more sense
No,
on this
absolutely. Yep.
going direct. And we have $50,000 budgeted for equipment for the airport park, athletic equipment. So we still have a number of the corner markers for the fields need to be purchased, and some other items going forward.
So you have 26,000, you have 2,700, And you have, yeah. So there's approximately 30,000 left,
Yes, yep,
20,000.
20,000 left. It was-
Jim,
Perfect.
when do we anticipate Airport Park actually opening for use for the field?
We anticipated the fall
Fall
of this year. yeah.
2020?
But we'll see how, we'll see how it all works out. We don't want to rush it, so we might come into the park light, maybe with the younger kids playing out there, but our plan is to get on the field in the fall. And also with the construction, we have a playground that we need to install and finish the building. We want to get that done before the kids are in the park. Because we're able to lock the facility right now. We have a construction equipment around. MSA's been doing the work out on the building. So we don't want to have an active park going when the construction is going on.
No.
The only reason why I asked that, Jim, related to this agenda item is that we're purchasing this equipment now,
Yep.
and where are you going to store it? Do you have a place to store it?
We have two 20-yard containers that we have out at the airport park
Okay.
that we'll be using for building storage and also this kind of
And this
storage.
kind of, sorry, so you're
Yep.
getting this ahead of,
Yeah, well, it takes,
In
this all
advance.
has to be manufactured.
okay,
A lot of the reason that we're ordering it now, most of the manufacturing facilities have been closed, so that you want to get your orders in, but once they start ramping up, they're not going to start, they don't have this ready yet.
yeah,
It might take them a month, 2 months to
Okay.
get it to us, so.
all right.
But it's also designed to be outside, so we can assemble it and put it throughout the park. We don't have to have it stored. But, if we do have it out, we would lock the goals up so that people aren't going out there and playing.
All right,
But we could put the benches throughout the park. That can be done.
okay, all right. And how's the building coming along?
It's getting there. The footings are in. The gravel's all on the inside. They're working on the plumbing right now, all the fixtures that would go into the ground. So little by little, it's coming
And
along.
the steel is ordered?
Yes,
Or-
but the plant that's building the building, I think that's due to come in sometime in early July. They stopped production.
Okay,
We thought we would have had that, earlier, but everything seems to be shut down.
all right,
All right. And we had, we tapped into the water 14 for the building that was done last week. So that's ready for phase 3 for the contractor, when they start that work out there.
Good. It's exciting.
Yep, moving along.
all right. Any other question for Jimmy on this item?
Nope.
All right, Jim, let's go on to number 8. This is to consider request to authorize payment for the purchase and installation of bathroom fixtures at McDonough Park.
Yeah, the town purchased stainless steel fixtures for McDonough Park bathroom. We did that last year. And we were looking for the right time to get them installed. And since the park was closed down in the spring, we took that opportunity to have them installed. The number to install them is, as you look, it looks like a lot of money to install some fixtures in a bathroom, but the plumbing needed a tremendous amount of work out there. These are all vandal-proof fixtures that we put in. All of the connections are done behind the wall, so they had to break the wall from the other side, put all the connections on the back, and then we had a mason come and fix the walls back up. There's now hot water at McDonough Park bathrooms. There was never hot water up there for the sinks. We have that installed, so. And also, this was done at a prevailing wage, which was, if you look at what the hourly rate that we're paying for the plumbers, and you're looking at $175 to $185 an hour. It added up. It was.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
a quick,
Yep. And we were out there every time they were out. Frank and I were the only ones on when this was being done, so we were unlocking the park, letting them out, giving them guidance on the job. So we were out there every day pretty much with them.
all right. Jim, question.
Yep.
Why was there never hot water in the bathrooms? Was there never a hot water heater?
No,
No?
no.
So there's one now?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Isn't that
How much
wild?
was that?
All right. All those years?
No, that's not included here.
Guess they wanted to save money back then.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right, good.
So,
You're in, you're out. You're in, you're out.
You're out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cold water.
Yeah, cold water, you're in and out quick.
Well, especially now with what's going on with
No, you need to
germs
have-
and everything
Yeah,
else,
yeah,
everybody's
hot
very
water.
conscious, so we thought it
need
was
hot
very
water.
important to get
Yeah, good.
that taken care of.
Yep.
All right. All right, good job, board. Board, any comments, questions on this item?
No,
we have
thanks.
to pay it. It's installed and, you know, they do a good job. It
Yep.
was a lot of work. All right.
Thank
You
you,
finished, Jim?
Jimmy.
That's
Yeah,
it.
you're finished.
Yep, yeah.
All right, Jim.
You got it.
All right.
All right,
You
thanks.
can either stay or go home.
No, the beach is open
Is
this
it?
weekend.
It's opening this
We'll
weekend?
be opening on the 20th,
Oh,
yeah.
Sycamore, nice,
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
So we have social distancing will be on the beach. We'll have it all marked out. We have a whole questionnaire that the residents will have to go through to get into the
Yeah.
area. Staff is all hired. They've all been trained. We have the protective equipment for everybody down
For
there. So
everybody? All right.
it's going to be a challenge, but you know, we're going to get through that. And it was the right decision to cancel camp this summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
You know,
agree.
we canceled it, and 2 days later, the governor said he was going
I
to
know.
have an opening date. But I looked at what the guidelines would be. It'd be very, very difficult to do. And especially with kids, you have, you know, college-age kids watching younger children would be very, very hard to keep them social distance
Yeah.
out throughout the
Not-
parks.
Not just that, but we, you know, unlike other towns, we utilize our local schools.
Exactly, yeah.
For,
Right.
for the camps. And when we weren't allowed to utilize the school grounds,
Yeah,
that
yeah, we were going to
really-
try to use Sycamore Park as our camp location with reduced staff and also campers. And if there's ever an emergency situation,
Wouldn't have-
thunderstorm, we couldn't handle the situation. So it was the right one to do, and we'll regroup.
Jimmy,
and
is
actually-
the playground gonna be open this weekend as well, or no, you know, like the monkey bars and all that? No, right?
No, the governor said the playgrounds are all closed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, are you gonna put like yellow, I know, I hate yellow tape,
No.
but,
Nope.
You'll just have
Everybody's
some-
got to follow what the guidelines are.
okay, you'll just have somebody there if they go on, just, no.
Well, we have
gotta
our
come off.
lifeguards there that'll keep, but all
Yeah,
the
but the
residents should.
lifeguards can't,
No, we have
see
somebody
the-
that's actually out by the front,
at the gate?
The gate,
Okay, okay,
but also residents need to follow what the rules are.
okay, yep,
Yeah, we have playgrounds throughout the whole town.
I know. Yeah, okay, perfect,
Okay.
thanks, Jimmy.
You got
And
it.
the rules with Governor Cuomo change daily.
You never know,
The
yeah.
executive orders change,
Yeah.
the rules changed, he modifies and amends things as he goes along, so.
Yeah, the
That
te-
that could change where playgrounds are
Yeah,
reopened.
the tennis courts have been actively used. They're having a great
I'm
time
just-
down there. The basketball courts, we had to lock them. Some of the parks, we actually had to remove the rims off if they didn't have fences around the park, so. That was a tough spot with the kids. They really wanted to get in and play, so.
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully, we'll get through these phases quick. And our concert series, we have them all planned out. We have all the bands all set to play. We're hoping that we can get to those stages at the end of June where we can get people together.
Just
at
put like
events.
X's every six,
Yeah, we're going to
every
do big
6 feet
circles.
apart or something.
We'll do a big circle
Big circles,
throughout
okay.
the parks. So we're planning on having our concerts down in the Chamber Park and also the 4th of July concert at Red Mills Park.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we have to wait and see how the guidelines are going to
Yeah,
come on that.
well, right now, it's at 150, I believe. On June 26th, you can have gatherings of 150 people,
Yep.
up to a maximum of 150 people.
That's the 29th.
That's the 26th.
Should be right about that.
It's the 26th.
I'm saying that, about what they draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's
Yeah,
what
you
they
may be
draw,
good.
then
And-
after June 26th, you can do it.
And we were also thinking of, in the Swan Cove area, having the residents come in on boats to take a little stress off of the park.
It's a little,
Yeah, I know, but we'd have to figure out,
a little dangerous there, Jimmy. You know, I'm watching people now with a smile on my face every time I go by. There's always somebody there fishing with their kid or
Yeah.
parking there or just
no, I'm not
sitting
saying
there.
come in, out in the water, sitting out,
Oh, just
It's
anchor
just-
out there?
yeah,
You know, it's not 6 feet deep and clean.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, it's nighttime. There's just a lot of things about that.
And
Oh, my
Jim,
good.
the farmer's market is canceled for the summer?
Yeah, we actually had very few vendors that did sign up, back when we were planning this all out. And we had to make a decision. And right now, in Phase 2 with farmers markets, you have to call your orders in, and they pick up
Yeah.
curbside.
Yeah, that's no fun.
That's impossible for us to do.
Yeah, that's no
So
fun.
it's not, our farmers market is designed for people to go and socialize, walk around for a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Yeah.
We determined that's not something that we could do in the spring and the summer.
Mm-hmm.
When we stopped it last summer, people were saying, you should have done it in the fall. have, pumpkins and all that stuff for the fall. So we might pick it up late summer and carry it into the fall, but we'll see going forward. A lot of the vendors were nervous because with the regulations coming down, if they're buying all this product and they can't get rid of it, it's tough, especially
Yeah.
if somebody has a lot of baked goods.
Yep,
And if they don't sell it on a particular day, they almost have to throw it away,
yeah, yeah. It'll be back,
Hopefully, yeah.
It will.
bigger and better.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All right,
Jimmy.
thanks,
Yeah.
Jim.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jim.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, 9, 10, and 11 is our town engineer, Rich Franzetti. And number 9, Rich, is to consider request to authorize awarding a bid for Carmel Sewer District Number 1 main extension.
Thank you. Bids were received for the reference project, C-251 Carmel Sewer District Extension Main. They were opened by the town clerk on April 23rd at 11 a.m. Bid results were provided to the board for review. Bids were tabulated and one irregularity was identified from Jokin Development Corporation. Specifically, the total amount of bid presented was $345,507.50. However, when the bid was tabulated, the sum was $342,507.50. In accordance with the specifications, discrepancies between addition and sum shall be resolved in favor of the correct sum of the addition operation. Therefore, the corrected amount bid is $342,507.50. Jokin Corporation is the low bidder at that amount. We interviewed references provided, including the town engineer of the town of Mount Pleasant, and based on our interviews, we are satisfied that Jokin is qualified for the project. We recommend that the project be awarded to Jokin. This recommendation, of course, is subject to the approval of the increased bonding, which was voted, which was talked about this evening, which is currently in front of the board.
Okay. All right. So, board, you're familiar with which project this is, right? It's the sewer extension, Sewer 1 extension on Route
Yes.
6, up towards Maytag Animal
The
Hospital.
numbers look fine to me.
All right?
Good
You guys,
references,
You
too.
okay, you okay with this number?
Yep.
All right, very good.
Didn't we
So
do the
Greg,
next one, Ken?
what's that, Mike?
Didn't we already do number 10? Didn't we vote on that? Give it
Consider
back?
request to refund application fee Carmel Fire Department. I thought we
I
did.
We had
think- I
agreed-
think
we had
did
agreed
a-
not to
I think we did a
take it.
resolution saying that we wouldn't charge them, but
Right.
maybe not.
And they already paid, did
And
they
I
already
think
pay
they
this
may
fee?
have
So now we have to return it
Paid
back to
it.
them. So we need the approval to return the money back to them.
Oh, okay.
So
they
yes,
paid-
they didn't have
they
to pay, but
voted
they
on
already
it,
had
right?
paid it already. Yeah, you did.
Not to waive the fee.
Right.
But they
and
had
the fee-
paid it
But
ahead
they
of
already
time?
had paid it, so we need the approval to return the funding. So that's what
And this
that's
one,
all
Greg?
about.
July 8th. Huh? Right. The borrowing we just did for Sewer 1 extension, for Jokin,
Okay, July 8th.
July 8th. Yeah. July 8th.
Thanks for the warning.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, so we did 9. 10 is the Carmel Fire Department. Want to just do that quick, Rich?
Oh, I thought we had.
I think we just did it.
Well, I
This
think
is
we
just
kind
a-
of just
All right,
spoke
we
about
kind
to
of,
return the
we did,
money.
we kind of just did it. Okay, so
Yeah.
everybody knows what that is.
Yep.
11, Town Engineer. This is a presentation from Hazen and Sawyer for Carmel Water District Number 2 Water Treatment Plant upgrades.
So here tonight are two representatives from Hazen and Sawyer, Kurt Matchis and Matthew Velarde. They're going to do the presentation. I'm going to move that microphone over for them. The board may recall that in 2018, Hazen and Sawyer was hired to do an assessment of a wastewater treatment plant at Water 2. It included safe yield analysis for Lake Lenida. It included a future projection, and recommendations for designs for the plant, or future designs for the plant. So, without any further ado, I'll leave it up to these gentlemen to talk. I'll be here to answer questions if need be.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Being here?
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
In person?
In person, yeah. Believe it or not, it's been tough working from home.
Been a while.
Yeah, seeing people face to face is a lot better, yeah. So, all right, we'll just go quickly through the agenda. So the elements that we were hired to do was take a look at the existing treatment system, also look at the projected future demand for that district. What is the safe yield from Lake Lenida? And then, based on that,
directly, sorry.
Oh.
You need to speak directly into it.
Okay.
It's just a very weird thing. It doesn't-
Okay. Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, let me make sure.
Yeah, just make sure.
Yeah, ask Dominic if the volume's loud enough. They can hear it.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, I know how to turn it off.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it looks like there's something there.
Okay, I'll start over.
Okay.
So what Hayes and Sawyer was intending to do was to take a look at the existing treatment system for the water district. We were also retained to look at a projected future demand for the water district. We also looked at the safe yield from Lake Glenida. We then took that information and data, did a treatment evaluation of what could be done to further improve the situation. And then we looked at some of the costs for that system, and then we're going to go through some of the next steps as we see it. So the current treatment system. Current treatment system is on a landlocked parcel. It's a very tiny parcel right here. The treatment plant itself is relatively small. The site itself is constrained. You have an access easement through the parent parcel to gain access to it. And across Route 6 on the other side on Lake Glenida, there's a below-grade raw water pumping station. Existing plant was built circa 1976, so it's really reaching the end of its useful life. It's 40, 45 years old. And again, as I mentioned, it's a constrained site. The current permitted capacity is 1.0 million gallons per day. The treatment process consists of 3 diatomaceous earth filters. Diatomaceous earth is an older style treatment technology. So it can't handle some changing water qualities that you're currently experiencing, like lake turnovers. They have some problems with that. So the reported issues are obviously aging equipment because it is so old. Actually, there were some reports of carryover the diatomaceous earth into the distribution system, that as it sloughs off the filters, it can leave the plant and get out into the distribution system, which causes further problems in the distribution system, particularly with the unlined cast iron mains that you have now that you're working on repairing and renovating. The one other thing that's really a problem with this diatomaceous earth is it has a high backwater wash rate. So what happens as the filters run and it collects all the particles out and filters the water, you have to backwash those filters to eject those particles off. Well, you have to use a tremendous amount of water to backwash these types of filters. It can be as much as 12% of what you process. So right now, your O&M costs, the biggest O&M cost for that district is purchasing water from the city of New York. So really, some sort of a treatment process that can actually reduce that would really result in a pretty significant cost savings to the district. In addition, because you are discharging so much water, that water has to be treated by the sewer plant. So you're going to have some benefits there as well. So you're going to have less water to treat at the sewer plant, so you, in theory, have more additional treatment capacity for the treatment plant. Also, this diatomaceous earth, it's a pretty high operations cost. It's a very hands-on manual effort, so you really results in a lot of operations.
So just to follow up on what Kurt is referencing to is when the lake turns over, there's a lot more backwashing of the diatomaceous earth filters. Those filters, get worn and torn. We had to purchase some new ones this past year, right? So there's a lot of that type of work that gets done with this. But that lake turnover, the operators are out there a lot more working. It's a lot more labor intensive for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the existing plant, a couple of pictures here. That's on the top left-hand side. That's some of the diatomaceous earth filters. And then on the lower left-hand side, that's some of the distribution pumps. But some of the stuff you see here, even with the way the pumps are configured, you can see all the fittings are just fitting to fitting to fitting. So if you have to replace one component, you practically have to disassemble a lot of other piping to be able to replace it. So it becomes very maintenance intensive to do repairs and replacements. In terms of the treatment process, again, Lake Lenita, raw water intake, sodium hypochlorite, you have to do a DE pre-coat, basically some makeup of the diatomaceous earth. You have the filters, recirculation pumps, because you have to recirculate the water back to the head of the plant. You add phosphoric acid for corrosion control. It goes into a clear well, and then you have booster pumps that pump it out into the distribution system. So any questions on the current treatment plant? Okay. So after we did that analysis, we looked at the future demand. So the current zoning, this is the town current zoning map, showing the district boundaries in blue. You have a very significant portion of the total land area is residential, but you also do have quite a bit of commercial and commerce and business park. So really those are driving your demand, because obviously the city watershed, you're getting zero flow from that for all intents and purposes. So going back and looking at the vacant land as well as some planned development in the town. So we listed 9 kind of bigger developments and smaller developments that are happening in the town. So you'll see the total projected daily demand is 330,000 gallons per day. Right now you're doing about 800,000 gallons per day. So if you just take the 800,000 that you're doing now and add the 300,000 here, you'd be at 1.1 million on a plant that's rated at 1.0 million. So in addition to that, you still would have some additional vacant land. So a lot of it, though, we did an analysis. We looked at residential, commercial, and the amount of acreage. But there were some problems with some of the residential land that's left to be developed, whether it's steep slopes, wetlands. So we excluded that from it. But you still have over 200 acres of residential development possible. And these are parcels over 1 acre. There are some smaller parcels that could be added on to that, but those would only be a single-family house, essentially. So we then took and looked at district population with time, starting in 1970. So we kind of graphed it out every decade. And then projecting out from now, we did a low-end population estimate, and that's really based on the last 10 years of data. What would that be if you continued out at the current growth? We did a high end, the red line, which would really be kind of accounting for some of those planned developments and saying, well, some of the peaker demands that we're seeing in some of the other communities around here. So that gives you the high end. And then similarly, we did a middle end demand, which is the green curve. But overall, you're really going to be adding quite a few people between now and 2050 is what our projections are. On the right-hand side here is the demand per capita. So basically how much water each person uses per day. Starting again back when the early records of the district, before 1970, you can see it was a pretty consistent upward trend, but it peaked out just in the late 1990s at about 160, 170 gallons per day per person, which is a big number. So you're seeing a decline now out through 2020, and we're really seeing that between water-saving fixtures, toilets use less water, shower heads use less water per minute. So that's kind of a trend in the industry. So with coupling the population with how much water they use per day, we generated some demands. So average daily day demands, looking at 2030, 2040, and 2050 years, we recommend planning, if you're going to do any improvements, really plan for the future, plan for 2050, because the numbers don't change that much between 2030 and 2050. So you're better off planning for long-term, long-range planning. And then we also are recommending that you plan for the high-end demand scenario. So if you're going to go ahead and build a plant that's big enough to handle future demand. So the average daily demand, that's really tied into the raw water supply. So you want to look at the lake and how much, can you draw that much water an average day, year in, year out? However, you need to design the plant to be able to handle the maximum day. So that's the table on the right here. So you can see the actual plant itself has to be able to handle a much higher flow than what the average day demand is. Moving on to look at the safe yield of Lake Lenita. So it has a relatively small tributary area, but it does have a pretty significant groundwater recharge component. So we did some simulations all the way from 1957 to 2017 based on what the lake level would be, based on the demands that were taken out from historical records, the weather forecasts at the time, the amount of evaporation, et cetera. And what we found was the groundwater component is probably a little bit more than actually the surface water component. So we're thinking that the average demand that you could take from the lake is probably 1 million gallons a day. And then we did a simulation here. We blew it up. So this is really from mid-97, I think it is, or 98, up until last year. So this is the lake level in Lake Lenita. And really it varies about a foot. So if you're taking out 1 million gallons a day, it would vary about a foot in the water surface. But as you saw in those previous numbers, we're projecting much more than that. So really the lake level would dramatically fluctuate.
Any ideas how long would it take the lake to recharge that foot, 1 million gallons or a foot a day? How quickly does the lake replenish itself, recharge itself?
It really depends upon, like some of these dips are like monthly dips. So it's not something like you can get a big heavy rainfall and it recharges within a week or a day. They're really long-term, month-to-month type projections. So actually the drought of record for this area was the multi-year drought back in the 1960s. So that's really when you do a surface water supply, you want to size your surface water supplies to make sure you can pass that drought of record. And it was, I think, Matt, a 3-year or 3.5-year drought, something like that?
Yeah, about 3 years.
So,
So if we're increasing the production of the plant, the new plant, we're increasing the production based on your projections out, will the lake sustain that?
Yeah.
Will
So-
the lake, I don't know if you got to that yet or not.
yeah, that's the next slide, actually.
It
It's
is.
a good question.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
Yep, sure. So what we looked at, well, obviously we looked at the option one, which is Lake Lenita alone. So with an average daily demand of 1.34 million gallons and a maximum safe yield from Lake Lenita of 1, it's a shortfall. So it's really a problem. So then we said, well, what could we do about that? So we looked at some options. Groundwater is really not an option. It's kind of pick and choose where the wells are. We looked at the county records to try to see if we could get any wells sunk with any kind of real capacity. We couldn't find it. So what we did is we actually looked at West Branch, because West Branch is pretty close, just on the other side of Belden Road. So it's a pretty good source. It's New York City water supply. But the benefit of that location is West Branch in the city's drought management plan, they're actually planning on leaving that water surface fairly high because it's taking water coming in from the Rondout West Branch Tunnel from the reservoirs west of the Hudson. Whereas some of the other reservoirs east of Hudson in the Croton system, they're projected to be drained pretty far, much further than West Branch. So given its proximity, given its water quality being similar, maybe even a little bit better than Lake Lenita, our recommendation is look at going to West Branch and putting a tap in there. Now, you don't have to do that immediately because obviously you're at 800,000 gallons a day now, so you do have some time, and it's going to probably take some time to negotiate with the city regarding putting a tap in there. So any other questions on safe yield? Yeah, so yes, you have years, yes.
Probably 2030, 2035 is when,
yeah.
but we should start planning for it now.
Yeah.
To look for it as we go forward, and you can phase it in as you go forward.
Okay. So with that, I will let Matt talk about the treatment.
Thanks, Kurt. Thank you for having us here today. As Kurt mentioned, I'd like to talk to you about the treatment evaluation that we conducted to determine and make a recommendation of what would be the most appropriate treatment technology for a new treatment plant for Lake Clenida. A lot of things have changed since you implemented the diatomaceous earth filtration back in the 1970s. One of the biggest things was in the early 1980s, the US EPA required that the surface water treatment be performed on all surface waters unless some very high levels of water quality were met. Because you were already performing filtration, it didn't impact you at all because the filtration technology you had was appropriate at the time. But other things have been impacting things over the years, including lead and copper rules, which impact your corrosion control, radionuclide, which really doesn't have a big impact on the surface water supplies, but some on the groundwater supplies. But a big part of the overall regulations since the 1980s is something referred to disinfection and disinfection byproducts. It's a treatment byproduct, definitely, that occurs when we do chemical disinfection. And it's something that EPA has been regulating more strictly, and really it's an impact of doing disinfection, which is required in order to make sure public health is fully protected. But it creates these byproducts that the chemical disinfectant chlorine interacts with the natural organic matter within the reservoirs, and that there's treatment techniques that better remove that natural organic matter. And as Kurt said, we have been seeing changing water qualities in reservoirs in the Northeast, and that's one of the impacts that we've been seeing is higher natural organic matter concentrations and therefore higher disinfection byproducts. And so really looking at a technology that would be most appropriate for handling the disinfection byproducts, reducing the disinfection byproducts both now and well into the future. And clearly, New York State Sanitary Code Part 5 is what oversees the implementation of the US EPA requirements for surface water treatment and the disinfection byproducts rule. But not just wanting to meet the current rules, but making sure that you're prepared to be meeting the rules down in the future, the ones that we know that are coming, and wanting to make sure that any changing water quality that we can conceive of would be addressed. There's going to be some revised rules related to the lead and copper requirements. We're looking at perchlorate rules. We're also monitoring harmful algal blooms, something that we've been seeing more throughout the country, and we've also been seeing, New York City has been seeing it in some of their reservoirs. The Croton Reservoir, a few miles south of here, over the last couple of years has been having more significant issues, and Lake Clenida is within the Croton watershed. It typically acts a little bit more like the Catskill, Delaware supply, but it is something that's being monitored and of greater concern, and there's ways to address that. As I mentioned, disinfection byproducts is a significant issue we want to be looking at, as well as I'm sure we're all familiar with the PFAS situation. There isn't a current regulation, but New York State DOH is looking to regulate that and likely going to regulate that later this year, and wanting to have provisions that if it were to become an issue with Lake Clenida, that you would have means to be able to address that in the future. And so we looked at different alternative treatment processes, really baseline them against the existing DE process. And then we looked at some more conventional treatment processes that would better handle the natural organic matter, a process called direct filtration, where you add some chemicals to help remove that natural organic matter and then send it through a different type of treatment, different filtration step than the diatomaceous earth. And then the next couple, conventional sedimentation, inclined plate settlers, and DAF are similar types of processes where you have a step before your filtration that helps remove the solids and the dissolved organic matter before it gets to the filters to make it more efficient and a more robust process. And then we also compared that with membrane filtration, both a direct membrane filtration process or a membrane filtration with a pretreatment step that would better handle the removal of the natural organic matter to help control the disinfection byproducts, where conventional membrane filtration won't be able to handle that without an additional treatment step. And so we compared these both qualitatively and some cost associated with them, but looking at both facility size and capital cost, how much operations and maintenance is associated with each type of process, overall treatment flexibility for meeting those future requirements, the energy and chemical usage relatively between the different processes, and then also residuals handling. As Kurt mentioned, that's one of the major challenges that the existing process has, and so wanting to make sure that that was better addressed in the future. And of these technologies, the one that we believe is the most flexible and the most cost-effective for meeting your current and future needs is a process called dissolved air flotation with the rapid gravity filters downstream. Most people are very familiar with sedimentation. It's been a process that's been around for literally thousands of years, where you add some chemicals to help settle things out. The waters of the Northeast are more difficult to settle things out in, and so DAF is a typical process that we've been using and seen used more throughout the Northeast, where you actually use bubbles to float the material out. It's a higher rate process, smaller footprint, and it's a process that we've helped design through Westchester. New York City just used it on their Croton supply that they put online about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I guess.
And just so you know, that's the system that's used in Carmel Water District 8, so that's
Yes.
what we treat Lake Mahopac with. That same type of process, DAF.
Rich, the dissolved air flotation with rapid rate gravity filtration, that's the one we use?
I think we just use DAF, but I don't know what the back end of our plant is at 8, but we definitely use dissolved air flotation at Carmel Water District 8.
Yeah,
Okay.
typically, there would be some type of filtration, and it probably is
Yeah,
the
there
rapid
probably
gravity
is, so-
filters, yeah. So what we did is we developed a concept design, looking at the drawing water out of Lake Oneida, sending it through a rapid mix flocculation, which rapid mix is where you add the chemicals, you flocculate it in order to condition the particles correctly, going through the DAF and filtration step, and then some contact time for that disinfection that we need before going to distribution. And having provisions to better handle the waste streams, both the waste backwash water that's needed to clean the filters periodically, as well as the floated solids, which we would be able to better control the waste stream and retreat most of it back through the head of the plant. And then the floated solids, which would be a lower amount of volume going to the sewer plant. And so as Kurt said, that would help increase the usable capacity of your sewer plant from what is compared to now. And this type of process, as we mentioned, has the flexibility for changing water quality and for those future regulations, should they be needed for PFAS. The type of filtration media could be changed in order to better address that in the future. So, before I turn it over back to Kurt to talk about some of the conceptual facility costs, anybody have any questions on the treatment evaluation?
Does this DAF reduce significantly the amount of water that's used for backwashing?
Yes, compared to what is done now, and even compared to the direct filtration, because you're removing a lot of the materials before it even gets to the filter. So the filters are able to run longer before they need to be cleaned, so yes.
So based upon what you had mentioned, or he had mentioned earlier, what's the difference in the amount of water that you save through this process?
So the number Kurt put forward before is about 12% of the total usage. On a DAF plant, you'll typically see on the order of 1 to 2, maybe 3%. So that's a significant reduction right there. No.
And just another quick question, like on page 6, you had the existing process schematics with all of the different, I guess, the pieces. And if something broke, you were saying you had to take everything apart, and it would be, costly for it. With this, this here, the one that we were talking about to put in, does it have all of these little parts as well? So if one piece breaks down, then do you have to take them all apart to get to the one piece that's possibly broken?
The typical design these days, you will have definitely mechanical components that will need to be maintained. It'll be a newer system, so right off the bat, the maintenance will be less. But typically the way the systems are designed and the way the state regulations require is that you have redundant systems in the design and in the operation, so you can take one piece out of service and still maintain your treatment goals and the treatment capacity you need if something needs to be maintained. But-
So, like, I guess we really, and thank you for that, but on page 6, you had the, I'm a visual learner, sorry. You had all the
No.
little different pieces. Would it be very similar to page 6 with this new design? Because it almost sounded like, it wouldn't be, but I just want to make sure.
No, it probably would not be. There's probably going to be components that have that
You know what I'm
aspect to
saying?
it. Right. You mean to the right, Susie, or to the?
This here, like all of these, like
Right.
would the new system have all of this?
It would be similar to that, yes. There's going to be another graphic coming up. I think you have a graphic coming up.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
know
you
if we
took
do
that
have that
one
one.
out?
There will be similar
I'm
treatment
sorry.
trains.
Yeah.
She's talking about your process train, right?
Right, there will be similar process
Like that.
trains, but the automation that would be provided with the facility for this, and just the nature of this process is less operator intensive than that process is. As Rich said, a lot of time goes into making sure that the DE filters are set up and that they're backwashed properly and such. And so there will be mechanical components with any treatment process, but the direct filtration, the DAF, even the membranes are more operator friendly than the existing process.
How big is the building now as proposed?
The concept building, Kurt, I don't recall that off. Yeah.
Roughly? And if you went with a membrane system, couldn't it be substantially smaller? Doesn't it pay to go, did you weigh the two in terms of a higher price membrane system long-term?
We did weigh the two, and as I was discussing on the prior slide, a direct membrane filtration facility would be smaller in footprint than a DAF facility with rapid gravity filtration. It would be more similar to the direct filtration, the second column there.
Wouldn't the savings offset?
But you're not going to have the same flexibility in order to meet your current and future treatment goals. And so you would likely need to go to a membrane filtration with a pre-treatment stage. Sometimes they go as far as adding DAF ahead of membranes. Sometimes there's membrane technologies that you can do the what we refer to as coagulation. It's the step that helps take the organic matter out of the water and before it goes onto the filters or onto the membranes. And you really need that step in order to be able to meet your long-term treatment goals.
When this goes to a public hearing, I know there's going to be a lot of people asking that,
Yep.
and they're going to want the differences in dollars and cents of the two.
Understood. And we can help prepare those so that it's clearer.
I'm just telling you to be prepared,
Yes.
because that's going to come out.
Understood.
Okay.
Kurt was just saying the concept for the DAF facility is roughly 90 feet by 200 feet.
Okay, thank you.
What's the lifespan of this type of system?
The structures would be 50 or more years. The mechanical components, pumps, valves, those are replaced as usual. So
Did you say 50 years? 50 years?
yeah,
Is the life expectancy of this type of plant?
yes,
Because the current plant is 44 years old,
right.
so this,
And it depends. These facilities can be designed to have either concrete tanks, and the lifespan would likely be longer than that, or you can design them out of metal tanks, typically a little bit more cost-effective up front, but the long-term return may not be the same.
so you get a longer term return on the concrete tanks,
Typically, yeah.
typically as opposed to steel?
Yes.
Do you know, would you happen to know that difference? Not dollar amount, I'm talking about years.
Understood. And a lot of that depends on the maintenance. The concrete maintains itself better typically,
Right.
where metal tanks, you need to be doing the maintenance.
That's why we're replacing.
Exactly.
Metal.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a sedimentation plant, but we're working on a plant in Biddeford, Maine right now that was originally built in 1886. and we're replacing components, we're replacing the structures up there now. So, and those are concrete tanks.
So when we do the cost analysis, when we look at various costs of the components, what we're going to be installing in our particular plant, are we going to, you'll have numbers for us, concrete versus steel?
Yes,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so we'll have to make that determination at some point.
Yes.
You know. Okay.
Quick question, if you had gone with the direct membrane filtration, how big would that facility have to be? In reference to,
Kurt, do you
the one that
remember
just
those
spoke about?
offhand?
It was a little, it was small, it's definitely smaller. I can't say how much smaller.
Okay. And where would this facility, where would this building go? The 90 by 200 foot building?
So we're recommending that you either acquire an additional parcel or we gain rights to an additional parcel. Somewhere in the general vicinity of your existing treatment plant would be ideal.
I don't know if you have the room there. That's right at the bottom of Seminary Hill Road.
It's going to be difficult on the same spot without
That would be, yeah.
taking an adjacent property.
When you say obtain rights to the property, it's taking it by through eminent domain, right? That's what you're, if we can't acquire it, purchase it through an arm's length transaction from the property owner, we could, for the purposes of a municipal, use.
There are some other governmental properties in general vicinity as well that you might want to look at.
That's just a large, very large building for that Hamlet area. I think it would really stand out.
Yeah. Well, I think you'd want to put it somewhere
There's some choices up there.
Okay.
in the vicinity, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that, Greg?
You got to put it in the same area so you can tie into.
Into the existing pipes,
Right.
right, that's, so it needs to be in the general vicinity of where the current.
Yeah, you want to maintain that vicinity near the raw water pump station so that you're not changing that significantly.
So I just had a question, and I'm sorry, I'm going back to slide number 9, but before we got to the real cost part, I just wanted to make sure. So it says that, I think that we're presently doing 800,000 gallons per day, and then we're projecting another 300,000 for 1.1, and that's based on the low is based on the last 10 years, the high is based on the possible projected build-outs from slide number 8. So if it's 1.1 on slide 11, it says the maximum daily demand for the high would be 2.5. So I'm just a little bit confused at where the 1.1 got to 2.15.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Probably
I
misstated my
get very
point.
confusing.
My point was that you're doing 800,000 gallons per day now. On the books, you have planned development potential for another 300,000
Right, oh, that's
gallons per
on the
day.
books.
On the books.
Those are already approved, that are
Okay.
not, that are largely not built out.
Right.
Right?
So-
Those projects, with the exception of the retreat's built,
Right.
Hillcrest Commons is
But-
built, RPK's built,
Approved,
but
but
there
not
are,
built out.
They're
but there are
approved but
some
not
that are
built
approved but
out.
not built. That's what the 331 is, either with respect to projects that have been, at least have approvals, that are
So-
anticipated to be users.
So Greg, the ones that, say that again, so the ones that are built out, which we have here, so
You
the
have
ones
an
that are built
800,000
out.
gallon a day average daily.
Right.
Okay, and that 331 is a list of 9 projects
Yep.
that are at least have approval.
Right.
And may or may not be online. Some are built out either, and
Right, so
probably are.
that, but still, that comes over a little point, if you add the 800,000 that we're doing, 800,000 that we're doing now, and then the 331, it comes to, a little bit over the 1.
And what they're talking about is there's 200 additional acres that are undeveloped, and you
Right.
project about a 1.3 average daily flow at your maximum 2050 with a maximum demand of, I think it's 2.15 for that period.
2.15 was
Yeah,
the
okay.
max day.
In the worst-case scenario with that build-out in 2050.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
so our recommendation is to build a treatment plant that has an average capacity on an average daily day of 1.5. Peak day would be able to treat more for, short duration, but 1.5.
Okay, but you're counting, when you go to the 2.15, you're counting all of the vacant land that could possibly down the road.
Well, the 2.15, again, is the maximum day. So you have an average day, which is what
Right?
you get, which I think that number was 1.34. So that's what you do on an average day. But in the
Right.
summer, when people are watering their lawns or filling their pools, you get a maximum. So you have to be able to treat that maximum day with your treatment plant. Otherwise, you're going to draw down all your storage tanks.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just looking at the projected, into the year 2050.
Okay.
The excess, the water demand is 2.15. So I'm assuming that, is that I just want to make sure that 2.15 on slide 11
Yep.
it encompasses these 9 developments that are on page 9, plus the vacant land that can be developed. I just want to make
Yes.
sure that final number, the largest number up there, is if everything was built out up there in this district, which includes the 208 acres, the 18 acres, and the 47 acres, that all of that, plus these 9, plus the present, what we're doing, comes to the 2.15.
That number comes to actually the 1.5 because it's average. So this is maximum.
Okay,
So that 800,000 gallons per day is your average daily demand.
yep, I got
We're
that.
projecting an extra 300,000 average. So that 800,000,
Okay, wait a minute, so the projected 300,000, that's what I'm trying to get. What is
Yep.
included in that? Does that include, Greg, does that include the 9 plus the vacant?
No,
Or
just
just
the
the
9.
9?
Just
the
the
nine.
9, the current average daily demand, plus those 9 developments.
Plus the 9. So we have no idea what the vacant, see, what I'm trying to get at is we're going to be spending millions and millions of dollars, and there's another 250 acres.
right, but that's that red line. See, this red line
Okay,
projects
that-
out
that-
to 2050. So that red line is a projection of that 200.
of the vacant land.
Of the vacant land.
That's what I needed to
Right.
know.
Because that
Okay.
vacant land's not going to be developed now because nobody, there's no plans on the books. So those first 9 projects will likely
Right.
be developed. Maybe some
Okay.
of them won't
Yep.
because
I
of
just-
financing or whatever.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that somewhere in here, the vacant land was included in
Yes.
this. Perfect. That's
But it
all.
was only the vacant land that's
It only took-
currently buildable,
Yep.
not all,
It only took me
not
10
all the
minutes.
vacant land. Yeah,
Okay, got it, thank you.
Sure.
Yes. You got to come up to the mic, Greg. And I'm kind of going off the agenda a little
Yeah.
bit, letting you speak. But is it a quick
This is
question?
real quick question.
All right.
Of the 9 projects, wasn't one of them the distillery, and wasn't there an agreement with the town that they would have to supply their own wells? So that would mean, if my memory serves from reading the report, 161,000 gallons per day would not be necessary?
Correct.
Right.
If the wells are able to be drilled, but so they
they're able-
included this as a worst-case scenario in case they weren't able to be drilled.
Yeah,
So that's the difference, right?
Be-
Yeah. Is it?
yeah.
They're drilling their own wells.
Because
So the distillery is not part of your numbers here?
No, it is.
It's part of the 300,000. It's about half of it.
Oh, okay.
But again, some of that might be on groundwater, but when we looked at groundwater as a potential supply for the district, we didn't think that it was that kind of viability in terms of groundwater capacity in the area.
So if they offset the use with groundwater, they're still a ratepayer in the district, and they would have the right to use the district water and pay for their use.
Right.
But the plan with that is for it to be serviced by on-site wells. But that's going to be 100% offset or 30% offset, you don't know. At this point, they're not drilled.
Exactly.
So we
Yeah,
may
'cause they
have
are
an
a district
additional
ratepayer, correct.
161. That's all right.
So in the
Okay.
assessment, we assumed everything was going to be on the district because
Yeah.
that's how you do the assessment, is to cover your worst-case scenario.
Correct, okay.
Okay.
All right, I got my answers.
All right.
So, yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so let's move on to costs. So what we did is we looked at general categories of costs, and we had a low end and a high end
I don't know
range.
what I did with my math.
Some of the reasons for the low end and the high end range is you don't have currently a site. Once you have a site, you're able to better predict how much rock is there, how far it is, how much additional piping you need, et cetera. So we did a range thinking from a low end to a high end for, well, general conditions, which is overhead, bonds, profit, their foreman on site, et cetera. Site work would be the actual civil site work. The substructure would be the concrete substructures for these tanks. The superstructure would be the actual building above ground. The treatment equipment, the MEP fit out. So you're going to have to go to Wicks law, we're projecting. So you've got to go to local law that 220. So the same problem you had with the bathrooms and having to use union wage rates. You're going to have here. So you're going to have to bid it as a Wicks loss. You're going to have a separate electrical contractor, HVAC contractor, and plumbing contractor.
I know what that is, right? The Wicks law, separate contract.
And then we also we're going to need to make some changes to the intake pumps, because the intake pumps are sized for the current system, and obviously you need more capacity. We also came up with some land acquisition and easements, kind of a range. We think it's a pretty good range. But again, it's really dependent upon that actual parcel selection that you want to proceed with. Then you have the engineering and construction oversight, and then your legal costs. So basically, it's 16.5 to just under 20 million. So then in terms of the debt analysis, I don't know, Mary Ann, I don't know if you want to do it or you want me to take a crack at the debt analysis? Sure. Okay. All right. So, looked at three different possibilities for the bonding: 15 years, 20 years, and 30 years at the low and the high end ranges to come up with an average annual debt service. So it includes the capital cost plus the interest. And so you get the average annual debt service. The current assessed value for the district is $973 million. So from that, you have 2,300 parcels. The average assessed value of the parcel is $414,000. So the rate per thousand, you can see there. So for an average parcel with an average assessed value in the district, the rates would range from 15 years at the high end, $620 a year and 67 cents, to, if you spread it out over 30 years, to $367.12 per year. Per parcel.
Per year.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, yes, per year, per parcel, per year, assessed at $415,000.
Yeah. So, you know,
About a couple of years back.
yeah. So 367 is about,
surprises there.
yeah. 367 is
You know, when
about
it gets-
$1 a day. 620 is about, I think, $1.70-ish a day. If you,
When it gets to the
365
public
days.
hearing, Kenny, I'm going to find, just when I started up there, and there was about 100 people here from the hamlet talking about a couple $1 million, and I said, if you fix this district 100%, you're looking at a low end of 30 million, a high end of 50+ million. If you do the tanks, you do the distribution, you do the treatment plant, and you add all these numbers up, you're coming up 45 to $50 million. But what people have to realize, if you spread it over 30 years now, with the rates at the lowest they're ever going to be in our lifetime,
Oh, without a doubt.
and you take away, and this is what I want to find, because I did it with Mary Ann when I took the job, the money that we spent, the money that the taxpayers were spending on repairs on an annual basis could pay probably a quarter to a third of the total bond, not just this, of everything. Because you're stopping all the repairs, and the money you were putting into the repairs, you know, people hearing these crazy numbers, but you have to wait. The repairs are going to be gone. You're bonding something new. The money you wasted on repairs is going to be at least a third of that. And then you have the two other problems, which both have the same name, the city of New York. Okay, if you look at the chart he just produced, you have 40% residential, you have 30% commercial, and you have 30% watershed. So a third of the tax base is taken away from the people. And that's why it's high the way it is, too. Also, though, and we've been working on this for a couple of years, and we got some good feedback this week from our attorneys, that the obscene cost that New York City's charging the residents for the water, if we could work on that, that'll offset the 30-year bond on the $45 million for everything. So before people panic, they have to look at the two things. They have to look at the money we wasted on repairs, which I have it. I'm going to find it before we have the public hearing. And Mary Ann can even plug that in as a cost. And the other thing is proceeding along with our lawsuit with the city of New York. Because if we get that water rate down by half, it also picks up.
It helps. Yep.
You know, it's a huge savings. So you're looking at big costs down the road, but you have to weigh in the savings of what we fixed and what we're working on right now.
Yeah, look at the whole picture.
One of the other
Good
things,
points, Mike.
is the difference between 12% and 1% of the water that's being used to do the backwash.
The
that they're saying.
backwash.
I don't know if that's a significant, I mean, listen, it's 11%, right? I don't know if we can attach a dollar amount to it, but that should go into the calculation of potential one versus the other.
Right, so Frank, it does go into that it should go into that calculation because you're paying for treated water as you backwash.
Right.
And you're basically putting it down the drain.
Yeah,
At
I'm sure we
12%
can come
versus
up
1% in a future type
Right,
of
I'm sure it comes up
situation.
with a dollar, we can come up with a dollar amount,
It's easy.
whether, I don't know what it'd be, but.
Pay $700,000 a year for water.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
for that district.
The people also have to look on the fact is, in 3 years, we're rebuilding the entire system. And there was I forget the number, but the money that was spent on repairs, and there were 100 people here that night, and I says, put it on a bond, this would pay for your bond. And I'm going to find that number.
Yeah, that number's important. I don't know if they fully understood that.
No.
The residents that were there. Some of them did, clearly.
I mean,
Plus
you've been patching this system for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Plus
And
the
it goes same with
inconvenience.
all, water 9 too. You know, you're paying on a long term, but what you were paying before is not wasted anymore. You know, it goes towards the new project.
So I had one more slide, then this is from a technical standpoint, next steps. So obviously, you have, some other steps you have to take with the public, I understand that. But technically, really initiating this land acquisition process, it's important to identify that parcel up front and start acquiring that parcel. You're going to need to execute an engineering contract. Our current contract ends at the completion of this final report and study. And then that engineer would have to submit the report to the Putnam County Department of Health, make sure Putnam County's comfortable with everything. You're going to have to do a geotechnical evaluation, and then you're going to really want to go back and look at the sewer treatment plant and just verify what the impacts of this reduction in flow is going to be to the treatment plant. And then obviously you're going to have to talk to DEP. That's it.
So you're not ready, board, I don't think, for a public hearing unless I'm mistaken, Greg, or yes? No, right?
No, I don't have.
We
Yeah,
don't
I-
have numbers, so we keep talking when
No.
there's a public hearing. That public hearing's not gonna happen. I think the next step, as was mentioned, we really should look into that land acquisition process. That's something we need to talk about in executive session. And then,
I think
You
that
know-
you're probably in a situation where you would do your RFPs for the design work. I think that you need to consider whatever acquisition of property or property rights in connection with the design. You don't want to do it and engage an engineering firm that has a different theory or different alternatives, and you've already acquired and expended the money on the parcel. I think there's a finite number of pieces up there
So
that you would
parcel
consider.
has to be included in the design.
Of course, that parcel, from what I can tell, is where whatever facility you're going to build is going to be built, and you're going to abandon this plan will come offline. So there's a finite number of pieces. There's probably a half dozen. And what Clerk was referring to is there's county property, there's school property in the vicinity there as well as private owners. But I think you have to do it at least in conjunction with your design professionals, so you're on the same page. And so you don't make it more difficult or more costly for the town if your selection of the parcel isn't the ideal one for the purposes of design.
So you need to know the size of potential
That's
parcel.
a tough site.
Right, yeah. Well, so Greg, are you suggesting that we contract with a design professional? That we're gonna have to RFP it, correct?
Yeah, I would say yes, you're going to RFP it, but
But-
you're going to get a final report from Hazen, correct? And that's something that's going to be delivered to the design professionals that you're considering awarding the work to. But you should do it as a formal RFP.
Right.
I would guess that's what you're going to do. I mean, you
So-
don't have
so
to,
the
but you
land-
should.
The land acquisition or the land search to determine which parcel is gonna be appropriate for that,
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be part of the engineering design?
I think it's part of the consideration that the design professionals should be looking at, that's all.
right, but, so that would be part of the RFP included in the language in the RFP, that's what they'd be charged with doing also?
Sure, analysis of
Analysis
additional
of the
parcels, of
alternative
property for
locations
the
of sites,
purposes of
yes.
citing the
And you
plan.
gotta
I
tie
think-
that into the beauty of Lake Carmel and that intersection right there, because you're not going in, the property's horrible going in.
Right.
You're taking one of the pieces right off of 52 or 6, and, then you're talking about architecturally
There's a couple that come
making
to
it
mind.
appealing to
And-
look
and-
at.
And
You're not
Mike,
gonna
that's
be
a
able
good
to-
point. When they did the estimates for the buildings, we were asked if we wanted to have different types, and we said, go with the high end, make it match more what's going on in the
You're spending
neighborhood.
this kind of money, this building is
Yeah.
gonna be right on a main road. And it has to, it has to look nice from that road, especially by that lake.
The existing plan is kind of buried below.
right.
It's well
I-
below the road grade. All the other parcels
I don't think you're
considering
going in the
at or
valley.
above grade.
The existing plant is below the
Yes.
grade of Route 6? It's below the
The
grade?
existing one is.
Yeah, the
Right.
existing one. So
But
the
anything
new-
anything
the
you'd
new
pick
plan-
is at grade.
The new plan
Or
with
it's
this
not
size.
above
grade. That grade.
No.
No,
You'd
you're
be
not
able to
gonna
be
hide
hidden.
it.
You won't
It's
hide
gonna
it.
be one of the biggest
So you're gonna
buildings in the
spend a
hamlet.
lot of money on aesthetics just to keep the beauty of Lake Carmel, especially right there, it's critical.
Right, yeah.
Rich, you don't think we can use the same parcel that we're on now?
There are constraints to that. That's
Because
something that
of the size
Hazen,
of the new building?
You're not gonna shut one to, you can't
No, no,
shut it.
it's not
you have
big
to
enough.
keep operations
Right,
going.
the topo-
Okay.
The topo is not conducive to that.
I also think
Doesn't
that's
allow
part of the analysis of the design professionals. Probably a stretch.
It's-
But if it can be done, then your design professional should tell you that.
Tough spot.
We did look at that as part of this contract, and just the constraints of keeping that plant running while construction of
Right.
a new plant would be performed.
That's actually what I was just going to ask. I said, how would you use the same site or whatever, or make it work so they don't lose the water, almost like what we do, much smaller scale with the
Yeah.
water towers, but,
Right.
wow,
Have enough
all
room.
right.
So would it have to be an adjoining parcel?
Well, they were saying you want something close to it because all of the
Doesn't have to
piping
be
is there.
adjoining, but what?
We have to
so what-
look at it closer.
Yeah, it's gotta be, right.
Yeah, because you don't want it way away, because then you're gonna have to put all of the pipes underground.
Yeah.
You need, we should try to use what we have there.
You need
Well,
an
we'll fit.
expert to locate it.
No, meaning close to it, like don't go,
oh.
way down the
Don't go
road,
to-
because then
right.
you have to do all the piping
Right.
to it. But yeah, I mean, this is something that,
All right,
out of my league.
all right. So at what point do we
big.
go there? At what point do we
I think you have
start
to wait for Hazen's final report here.
Okay.
And then that's going to be incorporated into your RFP, and you're, talk to the engineering department, talk to the controller about how you're going to go about soliciting proposals for that. Okay? But you're going to be there before terribly long, I think. This process is.
Short, I mean, we've gotten comments from the engineering department. Want to give this presentation to the board,
Yeah,
so I have So we've gotten comments from the engineering department so far. We've incorporated those into the draft report. So we wanted to do this presentation here with the town board, get any of your comments and input, and then we'll wrap it up. So it shouldn't take very long. I don't know if you want to give us any comments, or, we're taking mental notes here tonight on your questions and comments.
Yeah,
You talking 30 days, 60 days?
Oh, less than that, less than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
But certainly by the end of June. If it's longer than the end of
by
June.
the end of June.
Okay.
I liked your presentation.
Well, I for one would like
I
to
just-
keep this process moving.
Got to keep moving.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have to
we
keep the
have
momentum
to.
going, because, you know,
Yeah,
the money right now, borrowing
You
is,
know, it has to be done now.
you know, interest is probably the lowest it's ever gonna be.
As far as the alternative process schemes, so we're going to go with the DAF. Do we want to compare that to any of these other process schemes to see what the price is? I mean, we went through it, this is most effective, but I'm trying to swallow the fact that you're going to put such a large building right along the lake. I don't see how it's going to, you know, fall into the aesthetics of
I
the
can't hear.
hamlet.
Oh, I know.
Do we want to leave that option open, or no?
So the
I
question,
don't know.
could you hear, so the question was, is there going to be a comparison between a couple of the alternatives that were suggested, cost comparison, and then due to the size, it's going to be hard to swallow a bigger building along Lake Oneida? Did I hit that right?
Right.
Okay.
Try and make it fit
So
in with
just
the
trying to make it
aesthetics
fit in,
of the
but,
hamlet.
you know, I mean,
I think your two biggest questions are technology, smaller building, bigger building,
Right,
and location.
right,
That's it in a nutshell.
Right.
And you,
that's it.
Okay, great.
what, oh, I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to, because to Bob's point, you know, the DAF has the 3 pluses, the direct rapid rate gravity filtration has the 2. So I think, and just get me wrong, like, if the DAF is going to cost a certain amount, is the direct rapid, the 2+1,
Right.
is
The next best one.
like what is the money compared to what we're not getting or getting? I guess similar to that. You know what I'm saying? And I got to be honest with you, I don't, the direct, I have no idea what either of them are. I read up on it. But is it really close, but we're going to save $1 million, or is it like way out and not better? So you should go with the DAF.
If you look at it on an overall life cycle cost analysis, thank you. It's probably going to be very close between the two, because you're going to have some higher operating costs with the rapid gravity filtration, because you've got more waste handling. You're needing to backwash those filters more because you don't have that intermediate step that's going to be there to better address the overall treatment objectives and long-term objectives that you may struggle with in the future, where DAF, it requires a somewhat larger footprint, so there'll be more capital costs, but you're reducing your overall operating costs.
Okay, perfect.
Makes sense, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you find that most municipalities that have municipal water districts and have filtration plants, is this what they're upgrading to, this type of DAF system? Does it seem like that's where the majority of them are going? With this?
In this region, on the water qualities in this region, yes. Austenine is putting in DAF now. There's probably 4 or 5 in Westchester County already. As I mentioned, New York City put online the large Croton plant a couple years ago. Westchester Joint is moving forward with a DAF facility on their Rye Lake supply. So we're seeing quite a bit of it.
And do you know how long this technology, this type of system has been around?
Yes, it's been in use in the drinking water field since the late 60s in Europe. The first DAF plant in the United States came online in 1992 or 93 down in the Millwood district.
Okay. All right. Great, thank you.
And then also, we may be able to get a grant,
Yeah.
look at grants for this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're involved with a number of these different facilities and know a lot of the people, as I'm sure you do. If you'd like to visit any of these facilities to understand DAF better, to understand the operating requirements, we'd be happy to help coordinate that with you.
Yeah, I would actually love to go see one.
Did you mention Westchester Joint Waterworks?
Yes.
These are the type of plants that they're
Yeah,
installing?
Westchester Joint Waterworks on Rye Lake, they're about to issue an RFP for design of a 30 MGD DAF plant.
We know where that is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can go visit that.
I was gonna say, we should go visit,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that plant doesn't, they're just about to design
Yeah,
that
they
plant.
haven't.
Northern
We're
Westchester.
not gonna go visit that
Yeah,
one.
no. Northern Westchester Joint Waterworks, down in Cortland Manor, they have a DAF plant that went online 20 years ago.
And we could just go over to Water District 8 any day, I'll show you what that is. Or you can get Joe Scollin to take you there.
We have one, yeah.
Yeah, I've
my
been
one.
to the ones here, so it's the same? Okay, I'm fine with it then.
It will be much different now.
Okay, all right. Thank
Kenny,
you.
if I may, Mary Ann, if we were able to reduce water use by 100,000 gallons per day from what we're paying from DEP, can you give me an approximate annual savings of what that would be? Would it be fairly substantial? Because
Savings
where
about-
I'm going with this, and Matt, hi, it's good to see you. We've worked, okay? I don't know if they're aware, is that right down the road is Carmel Sewer 2.
Right.
And we're looking at such ridiculously high water rates that as they're doing the report, or if it's in addition to the report, I really think that we should consider reclaiming part of the sewer water through that's going to be reverse osmosis system, and blending it in with whatever new technology. Because now you've just reduced your daily water demand by however you size it. Now, this is what you say, Susie, but, you know, but, you know, I live in the district, you know, these are two of us, we live in the district. The state of Hawaii, state of California, state of Arizona commonly use this water for golf course irrigation. And once you spray the water, it's actually more dangerous than if you're just going to drink it. So it's something, plus you have new, advanced, better filtration. And I'm just saying blend, I'm going to pick an arbitrary number, 25%. So if we paid, what, $1 million in water to DEP last year?
About 8.
700, okay? So if we reduced our water usage by 20%, we just saved $140,000. This other machine will pay for itself in 5 years or less, because you're improving your technology. It's just something I really think you should consider. And like I say, we have 2 residents of Water District 2, and it's something that's worthwhile looking at. Because remember, Rich presented something where he expected water rates to more than, I think it was 8 times over the next 30
Yeah.
years.
Yes, that report.
So now, all of a sudden, that savings becomes millions of dollars.
Yeah, no.
All right.
And my other question is, Hazen and Sawyer, what percentage of the water treatment plants that you do are DAF versus an alternative technology versus, let's say, we'll just encompass membrane, nanofilter, ultrafilter, everything?
I'll let Matt answer too, but I was just going to say, it really depends upon the region of the country.
Well,
So
Northeast,
regionally,
Middle Atlantic.
In the Northeast, over the last, I've been working with Hazen for 25 years now. I'd say over half the plants we've done in the Northeast have been DAF plants.
Okay.
And everything from the Croton-sized plants down to a couple of MGD.
Okay. Have you done membrane plants?
We have done membrane plants, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And White Plains is currently replacing a membrane plant with DAF. So,
The city of White Plains is?
yeah. So, I mean, membranes are a good technology. They have their application. As with any good technology, has its right application. So I'm not here to bash membranes.
We brought up reclaiming the water from the district about a decade ago with a different board. You recall we had that conversation about running the treated water from the sewer 2 microfiltration plant up to water 2. So the board's considered that before. I think it's more of a
Putting the public to sleep with this technical jargon that's going back and forth at this slow pace.
Right.
All right? You have to find the location, you have to weigh the 2 or 3 types, and it has to be prepared for a public hearing. We shouldn't be discussing this tonight like this, in my opinion.
Well, we're not going to find the location yet until we do an RFP for the
Right.
engineering design, and then that's going to be included in that, so.
Right.
I think the next step is to RFP, prepare an RFP to go out for the engineering design for the
Consider it done.
DAF plant.
Consider it done.
Well, we'll have to get the bond, schedule a public hearing, because we have to have the funding in place before you can, award an RFP.
You have to have the funding in place for the entire project?
Not for the entire project, no.
Just where you're going to pay the.
For the design, right?
Design.
Yeah, and based on the,
Not the whole project.
yeah, not the whole thing.
Yeah, but based on his thing, it would be.
Talk to bond counsel about
Based
that.
on what was presented, it was $2.4 million for those soft course, 2.5, so.
Uh,
But you still have to have a public hearing.
Yeah, that's construction admin too in that number. Right? Yeah, okay, that's both together. Yeah, you don't have the money reserved, so that money's going to get borrowed, and you're going to have a public hearing on the borrowing. You could talk to bond counsel about that. That's something that's, you want to do it once, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do additional borrowing for
Yeah.
the design work, so, all right.
No, I think we should go ahead and move forward with that at this point. Does the board agree?
Yes.
Okay.
I do, yeah.
All right.
I got my questions answered. If I
You
have any
did?
more, we'll reach
Okay.
out.
All right.
Thank you.
Authorization for bonding
Yes,
for the full amount?
no.
Well, for the 2 point,
All right.
yeah.
For design and construction administration is, and obviously there's going to be additional borrowing for the construction costs. So we'll talk to Oric about that, and they'll come up with the best way to approach it. Okay. And they'll put the
All
number
right,
in.
so Mary Ann and Greg, can you
Sure.
work on that?
Yep.
All right, thanks. All right. All right,
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, yep.
Get
Thanks so
get
much.
home safe.
Get us your report as soon as you can. Okay, thank you. All right, so that completes the agenda items for this evening's Town Board work session. Is there any members of the public? I think you spoke already. Right? Any other members of the public would like to come up and comment on it? No? Okay. Board members have any announcements, anything they'd like to announce tonight?
I don't think so.
I just want to pick up where we left off last week. Well, first, I want to thank Councilwoman McDonough for providing us with the tapes of the 2 meetings for the comprehensive plan. But I understand they're thinking of breaking off into subcommittees, which I was aware of in the beginning. And if they break off into a subcommittee that has to do with zoning and includes any planning board members, I insist on being on it if I can. And I want to reiterate that I think these meetings should be televised for public input, not to speak, just to be televised, so it's open to the entire town. It's the biggest thing the town's going through. And if somebody sees something they don't like, or somebody sees something that's lacking, you have a lot more people looking at it that can go to the town board members that are on the committee, or planning board members that are on the committee, or the public people that are on the committee, because we do have business people on it. And I just can't emphasize enough, I think the comprehensive plan meetings should be televised.
Yeah, Mike, I have absolutely no problem you being on the subcommittee, so I'll send out an email to Bonnie tomorrow, with that subcommittee for the zoning and planning one. Yeah, because there won't be 3 board members on it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the subcommittee. And, I know I sent out the email from Bonnie. I wrote some of it, and Bonnie did, regarding what she thought about the being publicized. So we can certainly speak about that more at length, but, it explained her view in the email.
We have a couple of things we've saved up that next week, we obviously
Yeah,
are going to have an executive session.
We're not meeting next week.
We're not meeting next week.
no, the week after.
No, we're meeting the week after.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
planning board, is that why we're not meeting, because the planning board?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
planning
planning
board is
board.
meeting on the 17th.
Okay.
Yep. And then also,
2 weeks, Mike.
to that effect, if she, whatever subcommittees that they may be doing in the future, you know, I'm going to keep the communication open, and maybe Frank, you want to be on one, or Bob, you want to be on one. You know what I'm saying? This way you can be involved, not be on the one committee, because we can't have them all, but it's a way for you guys to be there. So I'll, you know, yeah. So I'll certainly, you know, when she lets us know if there's going to be more subcommittees, that's absolutely no problem at all.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
perfect.
all I had. It's
Thank you.
late, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, not a problem. No. Okay, Frank, do you have anything?
No, just this Sunday is Flag Day, June 14th, and we do have a box here. If anybody has a flag that they want to dispose, you can bring it here to Town Hall. We have a box that was built by the Scouts, and the flags will be retired appropriately, either through the American Legion or the different posts in town with the different flag ceremonies. Not sure when they're going to have them, but we do have the box here, so if you have any, you know, this is the place to bring them to.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Bob, did you have anything?
No.
Nothing for the Hamlet of Carmel? You're their voice on the
Yeah,
board.
nothing I could think of.
Nothing? Okay. All right. Yeah, if you ever have anything, Bob, just always feel free to make the announcements here, if you know if there's something going on up in the Hamlet.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Will do.
Okay.
My legs aren't 6 feet long.
So the meeting is, we're going to adjourn the meeting. We're not meeting, as I said, next Wednesday, the 17th. We're off because Planning Board is meeting, and they're doing a virtual Zoom meeting, so they need to be able to have access to the
Well,
studio.
Kenny, we're never off. We're just not, we're not.
We won't be meeting, right? We're never, I can attest to that we're never off.
Correct.
All right.
Do you
So-
want to go over the parade for the Mayor Pack in Carmel?
Motion.
I'm going to do that on
Do we have time? That's coming up the
What?
20th.
the 26th is Mayapax,
27th,
and the 27th is
27th.
Carmel's. But yeah, we're doing parade of seniors for the graduating senior class this year, because they lost out on so much due to COVID. We felt it was special and really nice if the town hosted a parades for the graduating seniors of the 2020 Mayapack graduating class and the Carmel High School graduating class. So Mayapac's Blue and Gold Week will be the week of the 22nd, because they're graduating on the 22nd, Monday the 22nd, at the Mayapack High School. That's where the graduation, excuse me, ceremony's taking place. And then we're going to have a parade on the 26th for them, and it's going to be the same route as the St. Patty's Day parade. So they're going to line up along Route 6 by CVS, and they're going to drive north to Stop and Shop. Up on Route 6 by Eastlake, that's where it's going to end. But along the route, we're going to have a reviewing stand. There's going to be balloon arches, so they can drive their cars through the arches. It's all, there's going to be a PA system, both here in Mayapack and up in Carmel, and the superintendent of schools will be there announcing, and the principals of the high schools will be announcing the graduating seniors' names as they pass through the arch and pass by the reviewing stand. So it's going to be really nice. They're not going to be driving their cars. The one requirement is that a parent has to drive the car that they're going to be riding in. Unfortunately, because gatherings are only up to 150 right now, we can't have them parade down Route 6, in a large group. We just can't. And if you spread them out, it would be way too far. So, not that the cars aren't going to be too great a distance either, but we're going to ask them to wear their caps and gowns, and they could stand up through the sunroofs of their cars or carefully hang out the window of the car, the passenger side window, carefully. And, well, the parent's going to be in the car with them, so they can always pull them back in if they're going out too far. So it's going to be really nice. I actually have draft horses that are going to be in the parade with a wagon, and the mascot for Carmel High School, which is a ram, is going to be in the back of the wagon. I didn't know Mayapack is no longer using an Indian as a mascot. How long has that been?
Let's not get into that, because we'll be here for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because I'll have something to say about that
Well, I do have something I want to say, but I'm not going to say it tonight. All right?
Let's not get into that, because we'll be here for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, let's not get into that. Okay, so anyway, the fire departments are going to be in it.
I find it fascinating that somebody from a different state could tell us what mascot we could use for our, I don't even want to get into
Yeah,
it.
Mike, it's,
We'll be here, like I said, for hours.
yeah, yeah, it's wrong. On so many levels, it's wrong. But anyway,
I'm still calling it the Maypac Indians. I don't care what the state says.
yeah. Well,
Sorry, Brett, I'm off.
okay. All right, so it's going to be, so Carmel's parade is going to be the following day on the 27th. They're lining up at the Paladin Center, and it's going to be the Holiday of Lights parade route, the same route that they do for the Carmel Street Lights Parade during Christmas. So same route they're traveling, same setup, horse and buggy, fire trucks. It's being escorted by motorcycles from the Sheriff's Department. It's really nice. It's going to be nice. Balloon arches in blue and red for Carmel. And it's going to end at the Carmel High School.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
All right? So that's what I've been working on. That's been taking up a lot of my time. Anyway.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah. Okay.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, so moved. And
in favor?
all those in
Aye.
favor? All right. Good night, everyone. Be
Good night.
well. We'll see you here on the
Good night.
24th for a town board